Alright, so we're here today. Just did a video about this on Deji. It's been up for a few days now, but anyway, KSI obviously is gonna have one or two more fights before he goes on to fight Jake Paul at the end of the year, which I just don't think is the right move. I think they should wait till next year, 2024. I may or may not do a video on that, I don't know. But either way, that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is trying to figure out who can be KSI's next opponent, probably during the summer, maybe a little before then. I'm not really sure on Misfit's schedule when their next events are. I know one's this month in February, or next month in February. It'll most likely be the next one that KSI fights on. But anyway, I got a list of opponents here, just like the Deji video. Got a list of opponents here, trying to see who could be his next one. Up first, obviously, we have Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, this could most definitely be his next fight. KSI even admitted he was going to fight Tyron Woodley in January. I think financial issues caused them to go with Dylan Dennis. We know how that turned out and whatnot, but Tyron Woodley was originally supposed to be the opponent in January, but it didn't turn out. And these two, hey, they've been going at it for a few months now, so we'll see. I think this is most definitely a fight that could happen. This most definitely could happen next for KSI, especially considering he wants to get to Jake Paul. Jake Paul has already beaten Tyron Woodley twice, so I do think this can be a potential fight next for KSI. Up next, Joe Fournier. Again, this is possibly a great fight for KSI next. Him and Joe Fournier have been going at it for a few months. Joe Fournier came up on stage after KSI knocked out FaZe Temper. They shook hands or whatever. I'm not sure how much that means. They shook hands to fight in the future. I'm not sure how much that handshake means, but either way, this Joe Fournier and Tyron Woodley are definitely top two of KSI's next fight for obvious reasons. They obviously bring the most amount of skill there for KSI. Definitely the harder challenge out of the 4 or 5 people I'm going to name here, Fournier and Woodley. So I do think Fournier and Woodley are both next, are both potential fights for KSI. Of course, up next we have Slim. Now, as much as people want to see this fight, I don't think this is really going to happen. I really don't. It's possible. That's why I put it on here. KSI has mentioned it a few times. Slim obviously wants to fight. Everyone else wants to fight. So it is potentially a fight that can happen. I just don't see it happening. I think KSI wants that professional experience in his next opponent. Like I said, a Woodley or a Joe Fournier. And if you ask me, I think he does the exact same thing to Slim that he did to Temper. Slim obviously hasn't looked good in his last 2 fights with Zanetti and Ryan Taylor. It doesn't have the same cardio as KSI. I think KSI does the same thing to Slim that he did to Temper. And I don't think the fight is as close as people think. But saying that, Slim is a potential opponent for KSI next. Finally, we have probably the least fight that is likely to happen. Salt Papi versus KSI. I don't see this fight happening. I don't think KSI wants this fight. Salt Papi obviously wants to fight. If I'm KSI, I'm not going in there and fighting Salt Papi. You know, if Jake is the end goal and you want Jake Paul, I don't think you step in there with Salt Papi. Maybe in the future, if Salt Papi becomes like the ultimate top level influencer boxer on Misfits, we'll see what KSI does then, you know, after the whole Jake Paul thing. But no, I don't think, if Jake Paul is your final goal, I don't think you step in there with Salt Papi at all. I wouldn't, right? And I know I'm totally different from KSI. But I'm just saying, if I'm KSI, I'm not risking it all against Salt Papi. Just not doing that. Now, I am saying all this, but I do think KSI would win the fight. Of course I do. I'm not a huge Salt Papi believer right now. He is slowly climbing up on my respect chart, though. After his first 2 fights, I just didn't think he was all that. But then seeing what he did to Josh Bruckner obviously boosted my respect for him. We'll see. I think Salt Papi is good and he has potential and skill. I don't think he's been tested. Listen, I understand Salt Papi doesn't need my respect and whatnot. It doesn't even matter. But I'm just saying, after what he did to Josh Bruckner, I've seen there's something there. But again, I haven't seen Salt Papi been challenged yet. Kind of like a Jake Paul. No one believed Jake Paul could do it, could box or was good at boxing until he was challenged by Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva. And once we seen what he can do to them two, we knew there's something there with Jake Paul. Because obviously, if you remember beforehand, he was just knocking people out left and right. Nate Robinson, Ben Askren, Anisan Gibb. So we obviously weren't falling for it. A lot of people were, but I wasn't. And then he fought Tyron Woodley twice and Anderson Silva. And we saw what he did to both of them. And yeah, so there is something there with Jake. And that's how I feel with Salt Papi. Just knocking people out left and right. But I'm not falling for it until I see him face adversity and face a real challenge. So we'll see. We'll see what it goes like from there. But anyway, KSI, I don't think is fighting Salt Papi anytime soon. It may never happen. I don't see KSI taking that fight. Looking forward to a Jake Paul fight. I just don't see it happening. But anyway, those are the 4 opponents that are possibly next for KSI. Obviously, Salt Papi being last on the list. We had Tyron Woodley, Joe Fournier, Slim, and Salt Papi. Those have to be the top 4 on KSI's list of next opponents. I'm not really sure who else he could go for that would give him what he wants in order to build up to the Jake Paul fight. Like I said, I don't think Slim or Salt Papi. Maybe Salt Papi. I know Slim. Slim's not going to help him prepare for Jake Paul. If he really wants that Jake Paul fight, he needs a Tyron Woodley or a Joe Fournier, maybe even a Dylan Dennis type opponent. He's got to stop fighting influencers for right now if he wants that Jake Paul fight. But anyway, Woodley, Fournier, Slim, and Papi, got to be top 4 on KSI's list right now. We'll see which one he chooses. If there's anyone else you want to see me do a video on for next opponents, I don't know, King Kenny or Anisan Gibb possibly. He has some fights in there that could happen. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. And if you want to see me do someone else, let me know.